Hi, welcome to Menopause and Stress. My name is Eileen Burns. I'm owner of Stress Coach Training. I'm a stress management coach, a stress therapist, healer, and meditation teacher. And basically, I have been studying in the holistic industry for 25 years, and most of my work now is actually providing online programs and training for coaches, healers, and therapists. And today I'm talking about menopause and stress and the challenges dealing with the menopause and the way that stress affects the menopause and the way that menopause makes people more vulnerable, more to stress and to anxiety. Menopause. Okay, so menopause, for many reasons, can bring up a wide range of emotions and issues. And one of this can be a huge problem for people who are suffering from early menopause because it's unexpected. It's a transition in the life that's happened a lot quicker for people, and for many people, then it can impact the their ability to have children, or it can impact them in many ways. But menopause as a whole is, in today's society, it doesn't get much empathy or compassion. It's a rite of passage, it's a transition in life, it's a stage in life that in many ways doesn't get the understanding, and very much because it is a woman's condition, there is a lot of discrimination, and there can be a lot of even neglect with women who have serious menopausal issues. Now, menopause can bring up a range of emotions such as anger, confusion, denial, fear, frustration, grief, guilt or loss, regret, sadness, self-loathing, shame. Now that is just, the tip of the iceberg. Menopause very much also, it's like many situations as we get older and we get to certain stages of our life, we also look at and recognise that we're not going to live forever. So that can also be an impact in the way that we view the rest of the life. So we may have regrets, or we may look at our life differently, and that can bring up a lot of frustration, and it can bring up a lot of confusion. So let's look at on the physical aspect. Okay, so menopause, we know that menopause obviously, affects the hormones, as in, the estrogen levels decline. Our body, mind, and emotions can struggle to achieve a balance. Okay, so basically, at that point, things start to change, and so many things about our body begins to change. So it's not just about the things that we're aware of, but the other things that are happening, the mechanics in the body is adjusting. So, we look at temperature changes, we look at so many things, and, exhaustion, you don't have the same energy, you may not have the drive and passion. There's so many things that you took for granted before that can really suddenly have an impact. And it's just that sort of the unknown. And also many women kind of suffer from extreme mental and emotional challenges. That's one of the things that I've seen, in my own career. Many women hitting, real crisis points when they reach the menopause, and it's because they're more vulnerable, they're more sensitive because of the hormones. And in relation to stress, the hormones have to be in balance for various things to function properly, and this is where it's a very much a chicken and egg scenario. Okay, because stress affects the hormones. Stress basically plays havoc with our hormones and our central nervous system. So sometimes, it's very difficult to know what caused this sort of maybe what we would class as maybe unnormal or unbalanced symptoms of menopause, because menopause in many ways it's a natural stage of transition, but for many women today it's not. And obviously we know that environmental toxins, what we're eating, our lifestyle can all play a huge impact in these things. So as we know, it's supposed to be a natural process of aging. But sadly, for so many women, it doesn't feel very natural. And for many women, menopause is a struggle, a challenge. It's exhausting, frustrating. It's, emotional and very stressful. And, a lot of women have a lot of resistance. And, that can be for a lot of various reasons. A lot of loss. And also, if you're not getting the compassion and understanding from other people, that can also have a huge impact. And we're in a culture where we place a lot of importance on how we look and how we're seen, and that can have a huge impact on women because they have, crises in their self-esteem, their self-worth, their body image, and the way that they value or identify, basically, the roles that they identify or how they have viewed themselves. They no longer may feel that they fit that person that they used to be. Okay, that slim woman or that vibrant woman, that woman with beautiful hair, all these kind of things, So there's a lot going on. So stress can increase menopause symptoms, and what I mean by that is, symptoms that are imbalanced. Okay, so stress basically plays havoc with the body and it causes dis-ease, disharmony. So, if you're, more sensitive and your body's already going through a process of change, stress can seriously impact your menopausal symptoms, and it can play a huge part in actually certain types of menopause symptoms. In fact, stress, probably plays 99% part in many diseases in various ways. Okay, so we know stress increases other health challenges. We know the impact that being, overexposed to negative stress, chronic stress, and how that can change the body's chemistry, how it changes the mind, the body, and the emotions, and the way that we react to life. Okay. Now, also, when we talk about chronic stress, and this is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about stress, I'm not talking about the stress response. I'm talking about modern day chronic negative stress. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. But basically, long-term, overexposure to stress, and that can again reduce our ability to adapt to menopause, because again, through transitions, our body is very clever. Our body is designed to adapt to situations. Okay, so it might go through a little bit of uncomfortableness, but it will adapt. But if you are under a great deal of stress and you're living a very unhealthy lifestyle, may that be overworking, not eating the right foods, or not looking after yourself properly, not having some sort of balance in your life, basically, your resistance and your resilience is lower, because it's like the scales, we need to always have a balance. And if you're kind of low on reserves, low on resilience, you're not going to have the same strength and resilience to adapt to the changes of the menopause. Okay, so stress reduces our resilience to external challenges, but also internal challenges. So, negative stress. Okay, so what I mean by negative stress is a physical reaction to a perceived threat, a perceived fear or threat. Okay, now basically what I mean here is that negative stress is, now a lot of people think that all stress is negative, and that's not true. Now, if we look at the stress response, it's basically our body's survival response to adapt to specific situations, to be able to cope, to be able to run, to be able to survive, to fight, okay? But when we talk about negative stress, we're talking about, someone being overexposed all the time, or the way that they view life, or the way they're living their life, is they are chronically putting themselves constantly in a negative, stressful situation. So they're constantly experiencing stress on a constant level, or a chronic level, okay? And basically what's happened, it's a reaction to a perceived fear or threat. And what I mean by perceived fear or threat is that most modern day stress, the way that our body is reacting to the situation, is very imbalanced in relation to the seriousness of the challenge. So if you think about the stress response where we have to run away or deal with a situation, that's quite an extreme situation. We have to survive, okay? And people might be in war, or in a situation where they're running from danger. The body, hits into the stress response, so the body can cope. The heart beats faster. The eyes will focus. There'll be certain organs in the body that it's like they don't completely shut down, but there's not as much blood flow and things go to the areas, so that the areas of priority, all the sort of energy in your body, the blood flows going to the areas. Okay, now yes, in emergency situations, that's quite extreme. But if you look at the way that people respond to everyday situations, like even running for a bus when they're late for a bus, okay, as if their life depended on it. That's the kind of situation. In a car, and someone cuts out in front of them, or, things that happen every day in the way that we respond are examples of where people are chronically stressed, okay? So the stress response is the fight or flight response, but chronic stress, and that's usually long-term negative stress, is actually caused by constant or long-term negative stress, and it's basically the way what you perceive, okay, how you view things. Now, we're all different, we're all unique, and we all have different conditioning, beliefs, ideas, and the saying that it's not what life throws at you, it's how you view it and how you deal with it is the biggest problem, or the biggest, that can be a win situation, or it can be a negative situation. So someone can deal with certain challenges in life very well, and they look at it, from a different perspective, where someone else faced with that challenge would crumble. And even people who, are more easier going, everyone has their triggers. Everyone does have their triggers. There will be something that will be a trigger. But there is some people who are more anxious, more stressed, but also it very much comes into the way that the roles that we take on, our identity, the way that we view life, and how we value ourselves. Okay? So negative stress is mostly caused by our attachment, our beliefs, our conditioning, and our perceptions of events and situations. So when you want something very badly, or you believe that that thing belongs to you, okay, or you never want to lose something, okay, that over attachment can cause you a great deal of stress. So for example, if you have what you think is the perfect job, and you will do everything to stay in that job, okay, you will put yourself under considerable stress because you've got that attachment, and it's again to do even with you view your body. So if you have valued that you've been always healthy and slim and been able to have a lot of energy or be able to do certain things, that attachment that you had is, you struggle, if things are not like that anymore, it's a bigger loss. So the more you attach importance to certain things, it can cause you a great deal of stress. Now, beliefs, the way that we were brought up, our education, our culture, the country we live in, our parents' beliefs, our conditioning, all impact the way that we view life and what we value as important or not important, what we think is standards and what people should do and shouldn't do. These again are all can impact our stress, and can cause us a great deal of negative stress. Again, someone who's very easygoing, who just lets other people be, what they be, they're not getting involved, they're not believing that something has to be a certain way. Also, what we believe about events and situations, or perceptions, how we see an event or situation. Now, I'll give you an example. I'm actually the eldest of 9. It's crazy, but anyway. Now, it's interesting in our family because every single person in different situations, family events, or whatever goes on, will describe the situation completely uniquely different. And in every family, people would disagree with what happened because everyone sees it completely different. And that is, that's one of the things as well with stress, is about how we see something. And again, in relation to our own insecurities or what we value is important, but it's how we see things. And the more we attach ourselves to situations, we can really hold on to certain perception or beliefs of the events and situation, and that can cause us a great deal of stress. So if you are hanging on to what you believe your youth, or you wish you were a certain age, or you're trying to hang on to that, or you believe that you should be still healthy, you should be able to still do this, and these things, or you believe that a situation is a certain way, it can increase your stress levels because of the attachment and around our belief system, and what we also call the monkey, the mind, the way that the mind kind of plays tricks on us and has us ruminating over something. Okay, so if you look at most stress and anxiety, it's actually caused by worry and perception. It's the attachment people had. If you can't get stressed out about something that you have no attachment to, that doesn't matter to you, okay, you can only get stressed with something that matters to you, and that could be someone else that you care about, that you're worried about, or something that you have, or like an identity, or something that you're frightened that you'll lose, maybe your respect, or people, you're worried that people won't care about you, these type of things, okay? So most stress is caused by the way we view life and by the way we view our challenges. It's not the actual events, okay? So in relation to the menopause, there is so many things that we can find stressful. It is the transition, because like anything, it's a loss, and it's a movement. I know that I personally had menopausal symptoms about 10 years ago. I'm 48. I was someone who had very rare medical conditions from a young age that impacted my health greatly. And I missed a lot of things that most people would take for granted. I couldn't have children and things like that. And I remember when I was diagnosed with early menopause, it was, like a bit of a shock, because it was at that point I thought there was no chance I was going to have, at that point, definitely no chance of children. Also, it brought up so much with me because I missed out, in many situations that people would take for granted. I missed out in my 20s for living a normal life. I was mostly bed and housebound because of my own condition. So it brought up things that I hadn't looked at. And that is the same for, and no matter what situation you are, no matter if you've lived a healthy life, we all have things in our life that we either regret or wish we could change, or we wished that something was different, and we feel that we didn't do this, we didn't do that. And sometimes we think when we reach a certain age that certain things have passed us that haven't. Okay, now for me, I was very lucky. I actually went down the holistic route because I've been in this route, and I went for acupuncture, and I always was a very clean eater because of my own health conditions, but I'd done various things, and my hormones were never, I always had some imbalances because I've had some rare complications, but the early menopause symptoms. So I was very lucky, but it's like it's a transition. So how do you start reducing stress mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually when you are, you're either in perimenopause or you are in the menopause? Okay. Now, I'm going to approach this from the mental perspective. Okay. So, and some of it will cross over, but if we look at things mentally, one of the most powerful ways that you can actually reduce stress is letting go of what we call the monkey mind. That rumination, that worry, the way that the mind darts off and has you believing all these things about yourself. And also it's where the ego comes in, where we jump in with the ego. And I don't have too much time to explain that, but there's a part of us that self-sabotage, and it's part of being human. But the ego can keep us small, or the ego tries and inflates us to try and be more in power or in control. And that can cause us great distress mentally. Okay? But the biggest thing about the monkey mind is that the ruminating mind and all the thoughts that racing through your head. And that can be a big problem in menopause because a lot of people suffer from insomnia, and then they get frustrated, and then they start thinking all sorts of things. And also menopause can bring up a wide range of sort of medical symptoms that people start ruminating over and thinking it's other things. Okay. Now, obviously it's about also letting go of control and attachment to things. Now, yes, some things in stress management would tell people to take back the reins of certain situations in their life where they're not taking responsibility or they're not taking action. But the biggest challenge that most people have, in life is that they think they have more control over things than what they actually do. And I don't mean, there's certain things that we can create, and we do have control of situations, but also there's a lot of things that there's a bigger picture. And when you let go of the need to control situations and other people and outcomes and attachment to what other people should do or what you think they should do or how you think things should be, you seriously reduce stress. Okay? But it's one of the things, because of our beliefs and conditions, we can find it challenging. And I'm trained in many things like CBT, NLP, and I've used so many different techniques. And no matter what techniques I used, even though they all had their place, one of the things that I found that I've come back to after 25 years is that meditation is still one of the most powerful things you can teach someone, because it helps a person let go of the monkey mind. You're actually teaching them how to loosen the attachment, and it's a lifelong skill you're giving them. Okay, it's something life-changing if they're taught it properly. But sadly, at the moment, because there's been such a fad in mindfulness, and a lot of it's great that we now can get access to a lot of things, but sadly there's a lot of people not trained in these disciplines teaching things and they don't fully understand it. So there's a lot of watered down version of this type of kind of work. But meditation, if taught properly, taught the right way with the right skills, can be really powerful. Okay. Now it's also about, really being present, being in the moment. If you're in the moment, you're not worrying about tomorrow. You're not stressing over the next 5 minutes, okay? You're being present and you're dealing with each thing as it comes, and you're more focused, okay? Which, when you're in the moment, you use less physical, mental and emotional energy, okay? You are much more calmer, so your body takes less pressure off the body, so there's not as many things having to go on. So these are all things that are important when you're hitting the menopause, because fatigue, poor concentration, even kind of memory kind of little problems. I know that because I have my condition that I've had. I had serious memory problems from a very young age, so I know what it's like. But these are all really important. Balanced lifestyle. One of the biggest things as well is people just overdo. They identify in their life by, they've got such a sort of entangled view of their identity, and they think that that's who they are and the role that they play in life, no matter what it is, the job role you take, or the parent role, the sister, whatever role you think that you take on. We sometimes get so entangled up in that way that we place a role in ourselves and put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And if you look at today, people really put the job role they took in, they place that in so much importance that many people are seriously overworked, overexhausted and very unhappy and stressed. So it's about getting your priorities, okay? It's like about prioritising your life, prioritising your health, and prioritising what's mentally important. So let's look at the physical element, okay? So one of the other things is that we have lost. It's something that, we should have the ability to be able to do very easily, but it's been lost along the way, is the ability to listen to what our actual body needs. We have getting into a habit of putting the mind is more important than all the other aspects of our body and all the different senses, and no one listens to their body anymore. So they don't really know what their body needs, and the only time people listen to their body, and even then they're not listening properly, is when they're in pain and when the body has got to an extreme stage. But even that, people look for they're looking for something to solve the symptom rather going to the source of the problem. So if you look at that, the way that even pill popping nowadays and medication. I have a friend my best friend's a pharmacist, and the stories that he'll tell you is mental about what people want medication for and why they don't take responsibility. And he was talking about an advert he'd seen, and it was an American advert, about how it was a man who, a man very overweight, and who's sitting eating a steak and eating all these quite, highly processed food, things that are really fattening and affect the digestive issues. And he's got gastric, he's got reflux issues and gastric problems. And there the waiter comes with this medication so he can eat more. And actually that's the reality of our society. We just want someone to solve the problem or the symptom. So we want our doctors to solve the symptom, but we are not taking responsibility for our actual body and why it happened in the first place, okay? So another, a really important thing physically is to learn how to relax deeply. Again, another thing that's lost. People don't know how to switch off properly. People look at things to relax as Facebook, television. That's not relaxing, that's a distraction. Many people can't just sit and switch off and relax and chill. So that's a huge problem, and that's where relaxation techniques come in. And that's one of the things that my work, because I teach coaches, healing and therapists, it's relaxation therapy, to go out. And one of the things that the students are always gobsmacked is how the clients are absolutely so happy after they start doing some of these techniques, because they can't believe that they haven't felt like that since a baby or a child, how relaxed they feel, because they have forgotten how to switch off. Now, exercise. Obviously, the exercise is extremely important, and it can be really a great thing in menopause. Sadly, saying that some, people with chronic health challenges or injuries, or trauma, sometimes that can be quite, that's not always an option for some people, or certain types of exercise. So again, there has to be imbalance, but it's about even people that have extreme challenges. It's about trying to find some sort of way to move the body and get some exercise. Okay. Now, obviously, it's also important that we fuel and fill our body with nutrients. And again, unhealthy habits today, one of the biggest causes of stress to the body is fat, sugar, caffeine, processed foods, and alcohol. Okay, even things like nicotine and things. Huge impact to the body, but people don't really, because they are not immediately aware of it, they don't realise how much it's affecting their body stress levels, their body's anxiety levels, and obviously the hormones as well. Stay hydrated. It's so important to stay hydrated. Again, if you're dehydrated, that actually causes more stress to the body. And reduce stimulants, reduce toxins, and stimulants come in many ways. Stimulants don't just come internally, like in your aspartame and your artificial sweeteners and things like that. They also come in many products that we have, and that's something that when I was very young, because of my health challenges, I quickly became aware of how many things were actually very toxic. And again, if you're hitting the menopause, you can be more susceptible to certain things. If you look at even deodorants and things like that, I use crystal deodorants or natural aromatherapy deodorants. If you look at things like that, perfumes and things like that, many people with menopausal symptoms start having allergies or start feeling unwell and they're not sure what it is, or they start finding perfumes and things overwhelming. But what people don't realise is the amount of toxins in these products, okay, and things that the skin's absorbing, the body's absorbing. So, these are all things that if you can reduce them, you're encouraging the body to get back into balance. Now, another one is in physical self-care. Now, we all know women are the least likely to look after themselves in many ways. They care for everyone else. They nurture everyone else. And one of the things that can happen when people reach the menopause is that they also maybe are caring for other people. One part of my work was working with many carers of all ages, and even young kids who were caring for parents that were very ill, and that the caring role has a huge impact on a person's well-being. Okay, so these all can have a huge impact if you're not giving yourself self-care because you are too busy looking after other people. Sometimes when we're younger, it doesn't show up as much, and then suddenly the body can't cope. But it's so important that you nurture yourself and that you give yourself physical self-care, because it's the true saying: you cannot, can't give from an empty cup. You cannot fill someone else when you're empty. And often people don't realise the fine line between the physical health. And there is a very fine line, and sometimes you don't realise how close you are to that fine line. So it's important to recognise that. Emotionally, now many women, it's not the physical aspect, it's the emotional aspect, okay? And for various reasons, it can be the way that the hormones is affecting the emotions, it can be the spiritual and emotional sort of aspect that's going on. But one of the most important things is to accept and own your feelings. Don't deny it. When I mean accept, it's about as your emotions come, you accept what you're feeling at that point. You allow the feeling, like, now if you look at emotions are just energy moving, okay? So if you look at it that way and you allow the emotion to come up through the body, okay, up through, whatever way, you're allowing it to arise and you're allowing it to come out and leave the body. But especially in the UK, people are very much the stiff upper lip, very much suppress their emotions, deny their emotions, and also a big one thing as well is the self-help movement. It's definitely, far more healthier to be a positive thinker than a negative thinker. But when you fall into the trap of, always thinking positively or always, being ahead or, setting goals and things like that, that's a big common one, is that you often are not in, you're in denial in many times in your life, and you're not accepting situations as they happen. Now, acceptance doesn't mean lying down to whatever's happening. Acceptance is about accepting that at that point, this is where you are, and then whatever you do or whatever. But if you do not accept something at a certain point, what you're doing is you are resisting something, you're suppressing it, and basically what happens is that is one of the biggest causes of disease, because what you're doing is pushing, squashing something down. You want to deny what's happening. Now, as you accept your emotions, the key is not ruminating over it. So why you're feeling this way. We very much, as women, we talk about emotions a lot. We talk about things, and we do have a tendency to ruminate and go over and over situations and stories, okay, and why we're feeling this, and analyse things. But when you ruminate constantly over stories and situations and what you're feeling, you're often adding fuel, okay? So the key is about accepting what you're feeling, owning it. Now, you can talk about it in a certain way that's healthy, but most people actually talk about what they're experiencing in an unhealthy way. They constantly talk about it, and they don't do anything to face what they're feeling, to own what they're feeling, so it never actually leaves them, okay? So they either suppress it, or what they do is they blame other people for their pain. And what you've got to understand, no matter what happens to you in life, your pain is your pain. It's your trigger to what the situation. It's not about the situation, it's your trigger, okay? And you own your trigger. And no matter what has caused the pain, it's only you can allow the pain to come and go. And it's about owning that pain and allowing that pain to heal. Okay, so another thing is about reaching out and getting support. Every single one of us need help in different areas of life. And, if you're someone who's always been very independent and finds it hard to reach out, I want you to think about the things that we don't think about, that we get help every day. Like we have someone who supplies our gas and our electricity. There's all sorts of things that we don't think about. We are all here in this world to have different roles, okay? And none of us know everything, and we're all human. And you have to have the strength to reach out and get the support you need. And if you need someone to listen to you, reach out, and reach out to other women in the same position yourself, because you'll be quite surprised. You can make amazing connections with other people when you're in the same situation. Now, as I mentioned already, self-care, nurturing, this is so, so important, especially emotionally. Emotionally, being kind to yourself, being compassionate, not being hard on yourself, and being easy on yourself, and talk to yourself and care for yourself like you would care for your best friend. And that's one of the biggest, I think that's one of the things that women find the hardest. And now it is the thing that most people find the hardest, but women really find this really hard. But please, if you do one thing, self-care, nurture yourself, and have a lot of self-love. And it's about owning you are enough, you're more than enough. In many ways, society, we have this perception that we're not enough and that we've always got to be more and more and more. Well, actually, you are enough. You're more than enough as you are right now, and you're perfect just as the way you are, okay? Now, another thing that can really help to reduce stress in an emotional way is to find old and new passions and hobbies. And what I mean by that is Think about the things that you love to do as a teenager or a child that you've not done. Now, you might not be able to do it the way that you used to do it, but believe me, there is so many things we leave behind and we've not done for years, and this can make a huge difference to life and give us a little bit of something else back, and can almost ignite a little bit of life back into us when we maybe feel as if, oh, everything's, because we can get into the sort of doom and gloom of when we're in a transition, that everything that's past that, and we're looking constantly at what's been. And it's looking at menopause as a transition and a great opportunity to look at your life, that this is a time of more wisdom, insight, and it's just a change. And it's also a reminder about life, about how life is so short, and that how you have to grab your life with both hands. So go out there and find old and new passions and hobbies. So on a spiritual level now, spiritual means so many things to different people, and some of you may feel as if this doesn't connect to you, and that's okay too. But when I'm talking about spiritually, I'm talking about many elements. I'm talking about connecting to the self, and this is something we talk about in meditation. It's about connecting to that part of us that never changes no matter what age we are. That part of us that it's like a place that resides, that's calm, that's peaceful, and it's the part of us that doesn't get caught up in that monkey mind, okay? And that can really help us reduce our stress. When you connect with also your gifts, your spiritual gifts, your intuition, your inner wisdom, and any other gifts, one of the things that I see is a lot of women, when they hit menopause, actually become more intuitive, they become more psychic, or whatever, certain gifts that they've already got, or healing gifts, or certain things actually come out to the surface if they allow it, because their body's telling them. And sometimes people who struggle with the menopause actually have something else going on. Something's, in their body's telling them that they need to change and they have to be themselves. They have to start owning who they are and the gifts that they're here to share in whatever capacity that comes. So your spiritual gifts, can come in so many ways. They can be just gifts that you're here, your purpose, your life purpose, okay? And it's also about connecting to your beliefs. Sometimes when we go through life and we forget about certain things that are important to us, or we're at a transition period and we struggle with the beliefs. So it's about maybe reconnecting or re-looking at your beliefs or your ideas, and something that will help you feel connected and more strong. So, what is the most simple and powerful ways to reduce stress? Well, I'm going to tell you, I teach many things, and I use a lot of combination of things for various reasons, but I want to simplify it for you, okay? And today, what I want to talk about is how that when you learn how to meditate, you're giving yourself it's not just a powerful tool, it's a lifelong tool. It's a tool that, to me, it's like your best friend. It's like a doorway. I learned meditation in my early 20s, dealing with extreme situations, and I always believe it kept me so mentally and emotionally sane, because it gave me a doorway to something that I had never really experienced before. And if you can learn how to do it properly and you commit to some sort of meditation, now it doesn't have to be twice 20 minutes a day. That's the way I was taught originally, but it took me many years to realise when I went out to be a meditation teacher, I had to, for various reasons, I had to think on my feet and try and get other techniques. Particularly I worked with challenging teenagers, extremely challenging teenagers, who certainly weren't going to sit for a 20-minute meditation. So if you get the right techniques, it's about even bringing a few minutes in here and there it's better than nothing, okay? But if you can learn how to meditate properly, you access peace, you access stillness, you access more body wisdom, you access more inner wisdom, so you know what your body's really telling you, not what you think it's telling you, that it's just sore, or it's because that you've hurt it or whatever, you start connecting more into your body. You start also feeling more stronger within yourself because you're more connected